It's a small world after all, and the Italians give us a stunning and unforgettable footage of a bike race. I think James Bond movie started with the bike race scene. That's kind of what we have here. Crybaby Julian, Alaphilippe, he takes the big win. Chloe Dygert, she hands the gold medal to the Dutch. Ganna, he ride like bull. Wout is the almost boy twice. Some ins and outs of cycling. Giro Rosa, Team CCC, Lotto, Monte Group Gobert, all big things happening in the world. Some things that make you go, Fleche Wallone, results and analysis of the men's and women's race. And folks, we have a Giro coming up next week. It's exhausting. It's Wednesday, September 30, 2020, and this is the Between Two Wheels podcast, episode 204. And I'm going to bring in here, we're going to have a good debate going on today with our good friend, Chris Flower. Chris, I'll give you 2 minutes to talk about, no, we're not going to. Did you see the debate last night? And that's all I want to ask. Yes or no?
I did, yes.
Okay, well. That's all we'll talk about.
We'll talk about today? That offline. I'm not good. I'm experiencing the rigors of not really doing much exercise. Where I slept last night and I woke up with like a knee ache, and I don't know if that's age or I don't know. Beats me. I think it's just however many months of reduced activity is starting to wear on me, but
yeah,
I'm doing okay. How are you?
Fine. I did a little, you call it a team camp? I think they did with a Folsom bike this last weekend, and I had not been doing a ton of riding, and it wasn't over the top as far as distance goes, about 60 miles a day, but some huge climbing. And you grew up in that area, it's down by Santa Cruz, so you would know. And great weather, great climbing. And I just want to say to all those guys, great group of guys, didn't have any problems, oddly. One guy did want to throw me into a hole because I don't like Red Hot Chili Peppers. But, what are you going to do? Wow. Music.
Congrats on getting on that team, by the way.
I don't know that I got on that team. I just know that they let us tag along. I think that's what it is.
No, there's good riding there. It's like I said, a lot of climbing in the mountains, and it's really steep stuff too. It's either straight up or straight down.
And I did take some video. There's some downhill that was ridiculous. We even had a Cameron Walker who went down in one point, and lucky that he went down and rolled. It was right in front of me. My camera just turned off, ran out of battery, and then he bowled up, and there was a cliff off this, and it was kind of crazy, but wonderful riding, and I had a good time. So I just want to say thanks to those guys, Folsom Bike guys, and I look for some normalcy coming out next year. Oh, one other thing, we went by Bonnie Doon. I think that's the area out there. Tour California had gone, and just some devastated fire that are, houses just flattened right across the road. That house is perfectly fine. This one's burned, and somehow it didn't carry over the eaves. It's crazy.
Yeah, that's unfortunate stuff, and it's odd having been in and around some of those fire zones for work. The kind of anatomy or life of a fire is odd, where you can have 10 homes just obliterated and one home untouched.
Yeah, crazy. And then we're out there doing bike rides, and that's what we want to do. And you realize, there's some bigger things in the world. Why don't we talk about the classics? The classics have started. Then we'll go back and do worlds. I got a little highlight video we'll run. Hoping we don't get a copyright strike on that as well. But let's talk about Fleche Wallone, because the worlds I have a highlight video. But let's talk about Fleche Wallone this morning, because this is the big race that happened. And then we'll go talk about worlds. So did you see both the men's and the women's? I know you saw the men's. I actually went back and watched the women's after the men's. And what'd you think of them?
I watched the highlights of the women's race, and I caught about the last 40K of the men's race. It was good racing. It was kind of consistent for what I've seen in prior Fleche Wallones, where it ultimately comes to the final climb in a relatively large group. It's not a 3, 4, 5 person group that gets to the base together.
Right.
It's kind of the reduced peloton leading into who's got the kick for the last 100-meter effort to get over that final pitch. But it was a good race in the men's race. From what I saw, there were some young guys that made some noteworthy efforts, and in the women's race, it was cool to see some good teamwork come together for Trek. They didn't get the win, but it was a good race to see them kind of work as a team.
Yeah. So there was a guy off the front. Do you know his name?
Maury. Yeah, it's Maury van Sevenant.
Yeah, that guy. Was there have you seen anybody more pronounced in their body movement to get everything out of their pedal stroke, every single pedal stroke, than this guy?
No, I mean, he was putting it in there. I think maybe he probably rode 10 kilometers further than everybody if you were to like account for his lateral motion.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, he had the head bob going, the shoulder bob. He was ducking and weaving everything. So maybe he was trying to get out of the wind and he thought he could avoid it that way.
He was like Tourette's meets epileptic seizures meets one of the French riders. What's his name? Volkler. It's kind of like, it was a little crazy and it was a little much. At some point, I'm just like, someone catch this guy, put me out of my misery. But he stayed out there quite a long time. And then, as you would expect, it's going to come down to the finish, and you have Iran. I mean, actually, before that, Iran, what was he, like 9-10K out or so? He made a move and tried to close it down. They're like 50 seconds up. They had to climb before the finish, and he cuts that down to maybe 15 seconds, never could quite get there until it was right at the base of the climb. And at that point, like you'd text me, hey, he's trying to, close a bridge the gap so that they can work together, which might've been, they still go up that last climb, the Hui, so much quicker. I just don't think they need like a minute almost.
Yeah, I think it was like 10K out, and I'll probably butcher all the names here, but yeah, he attacked on the Côte du Chemin de Gus. We'll say that's right. And he was getting really darn close to Van Sevenant. Unfortunately, as we saw, Van Sevenant kind of paid the price for his youthful exuberance by overcooking a corner. Maybe 2.5, 3K to go, and biffed it into the bushes. It was a pretty quick recovery because you figure Iran was 10, 15 seconds behind him, and he was back on his bike, and Iran didn't catch him for another 500 meters.
That's true.
So it was it must have been just like the most graceful landing where he was like on his feet, back on the bike immediately.
Yeah, as you would send me a text in the morning, and you said he Mark Hershey'd himself, and I said, well, he kind of Dygert it as well. Maybe right. A little more Hershey because he was able to stay upright and continue on. And then, hey, portent of things to come. Oh, by the way, Zimny just gave a reference that his riding was like Stefan Creason when sprinting. Those of you, the locals, know Stefan Creason. He does get a little head bobby, or Eric Nelson maybe even. So anyway, they hit the bottom climb, and it was a bit different for me because Alaphilippe wasn't there. You didn't have Valverde. It's just some of these kind of known figures that they're kind of finished. So you had Port, you had Iran was hitting the front and kind of coming back. Hershey was there. So two kind of quick steps that faded pretty quick. Cosnefoy, he had his whole AG2R team on the front. First time I've seen him go up a good climb near the finish since, even during the tour.
He was the KOM guy,
I know, but a real climb where people were contesting it, he finally was able to do. And then Mike Woods and EF had been, up near the front there, and Mike Woods takes a dig, maybe a little early. It's really interesting because I watched the women's race and it's so much slower going up there. I mean, it's still better than what I would be able to do, but in comparison, it's a bit slower. And it's like a slow motion seated sprint between all them, and the men are just crushing it. And a K and a half. I mean, think about a mile climb. It seems like it's just this pitch that goes up, but that's still a pretty good little segment to hit at the end. Yeah,
and it seems like, at least watching the guys' efforts today, the final 200 meters before it flattens out is the worst. So it's not like it's a climb that eases as you approach the end. It gets steeper and steeper and steeper, and that lactic acid buildup probably is just killing them as they're trying to give everything they've got to get up there.
Right. So in the end, Mark Hershey ends up winning, followed by Cosnefoy. And then we had quite the fade at the end there from Mike Woods, not quite being able to hold it up. And I thought it was, pretty stellar of Woods in general, trying to do what he was doing. But let me just see if we can see the results here. It might be a little small, but Hershey, Cosnefoy, Woods, Warren Barguil, Den Martin, Kwiatkowski was the other one that was right up there and just was fading. Patrick Conrad, Port, Pogacar was up there as well. Simon Geschke, and other than that, are you seeing, Rudy Millard, Harada? Like I said, it's just a little bit different of a group this time than you're typically going to see on the Mur de Huy. Without and so why was Valverde? I mean, Valverde was one, just did the tour. This whole compact season. Why wasn't Alaphilippe there?
I think he's just wrecked right now. I mean, he coming off, 2 Giro Rosa and Lotto, and then 2 Giro Rosa and We, and then 2 Giro Rosa and We. I mean, he was just, he was just coming off the tour, coming off Worlds, coming off celebrating Worlds. He probably needed a couple days of recovery because I think he's targeting Liège-Bastogne-Liège and probably wanted to give himself a couple days to get his legs back under him so he can put in a genuine effort there.
Right.
But even like, there were guys that are probably like Tom Dumoulin today. He kind of faded off the back of the group, and a couple other notable guys did the same. And are they just really tired? Are they saving their legs for this weekend, or what's going on there? But yeah, it was kind of a not as star-studded finish at this go around.
And there's only so much you can do, right, with this compact season, and so much you can hold on to. And I think, that Dumoulin's probably hit his peak. A lot of these guys, evidently Hershey has hit his peak. What do you think about this kid? 22 years old, near misses in the Tour de France, finally getting his win in the Tour, and then just coming out on this one and Worlds. I mean, kind of
he's riding incredibly well, and he's just an aggressive, poppy rider. I mean, you saw the finish there where he came around Woods. He had the energy to not just come around Woods, but fly all the way across the road to get on the left side of the barriers there. So he's got some pep. So he's a fun rider to watch, where he can contend those short, punchy climbs, but also still be there in some of the longer efforts. So he's definitely a solid rider. And I think he's coached by Cancellara. Is that the story there?
Either coached or that's his manager. I don't know if he's being coached. Yeah.
Okay.
He's getting business advice from him.
Yeah, no, it seems to be paying off though, whatever he's doing for training. But there were quite a few young guys that are kind of making names for themselves right now. You've got Hershey, you've got this Van Sevenant, and then a few others in the Tour that were really notable. Nielsen obviously was putting in good efforts. Pogacar, kind of a new age, if you will, maybe of kids coming up. I don't know.
Yeah, and then don't even forget about Bernal. I mean,
yeah, that's true.
All these crazy. Did you know anything about Mark Hershey prior to the Tour?
No. All
right.
I don't think I've heard his name.
Right. Is that because he rides a smaller bike than you like? Because you know all the tall guys, right?
I can tell you about the guy here that was in the break if you want to know about him. But
which one, Demarche?
No, I've already forgotten his name. He's
Pashon or something like that.
Matthias Pashon.
Yeah. What about him?
He seems like he'll be a good classics rider. 6'2", 185. I mean,
he was riding on one of those Conti teams, right?
Yeah, he was on Circus, Joker, Global. I don't know what they're called.
Excellent.
One of those teams, but
go
ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, if you wanted to go on from there, I was going to just ask about the women's race, but go ahead and finish what you're saying, and then we'll talk about the women.
Oh no, it's just it's cool to see some new names get an opportunity to put themselves out there, and I don't know if that's a function of the reduced schedule where some of the bigger riders aren't able to hit all these races, so they've got to take a few days off, which gives some of these non-marquee guys an opportunity to get out there and kind of show what they can do. So, and at the same time, Sunweb doesn't really have a prominent rider that they can throw out there to fill that role. So, as we saw on the Tour, it's a good opportunity for everybody to kind of get their shot to have a good day.
Two guys I'm still looking to see get their shot at all this year is Travis McCabe, and then what's the other guy that signed with them from with Israel Startup Nation, the Canadian? Not coming to me.
He was in there today.
Was he in there today? Okay, good.
Yeah, he finished in like he was on the finishing sheet, so I think he was a couple minutes back. But
okay,
it was good to see him up there.
At least he's getting some starts time. That'll come to us. Maybe someone could chime in with. Didn't he win the Tour of Utah? Was that the last one? He won something, probably. And then he got that Piccoli. There you go, James Piccoli.
Yeah.
Okay, so the women, I looked at that one. It looks like they were just doing kind of a 20-30K circuit going up the Hui. So they went up there at least 2 or 3 times, and kind of it was a break off, and they had bad weather. So they get the bad weather, they get the circuit, they're going over the Hui a bunch of times, and then they got some live TV, which was a good thing. So all just like the men's race, though, comes down to the finish. All the teams are poking in there at the front, and Amanda Vandenbergen just sets pace from the bottom lets someone come over her a little bit and then takes over again and crushes her for the finish. It's kind of demoralizing. Like I said, it was pretty slow pace, but they were grinding and just spitting people out. And so she gets a win. And the first win in the rainbow jersey. In the first race.
Yeah, first race in the rainbow jersey too.
Yeah.
And that was her sixth Fleche Wallone in a row. So I think she has ownership of that race. Yeah.
That's pretty, just going here, the Fleche Wallone. So last few years, you've had Valverde won from 2014 through 17, then Alaphilippe from 18 to 19. And I could see Hershey going from 20 to 24 or something like that. It's kind of in the same vein.
Seems like that course suits him well. So
Van der Breggen, that was obviously, spot on. And you'll talk about her a little bit later, but not much. I'm watching this there and I'm seeing another one of the ladies. And we'll pull up the results here, coming past her a little bit. And I'm thinking at some point, it's just not going to last. I just don't see it.
Yeah.
Her being able to hold her off because she's so flippin' strong. And it just wasn't, especially when they're going that slow. It just didn't.
So I think that was Demi Vollering that made an effort to get around her on the climb. And Van der Breggen was like, I'll jump right past you. And Vollering kind of faded a little bit. She was able to hold on to third while Cecilie Uttrup Ludwig, she came in second. She had a little bit of a mechanical, I think, within the last 10K as well. So I don't know if it was a flat or a bike issue, but it was good on her to chase back and still finish second with that going on.
And I don't know if you were able to see, but Lizzie Dinan, she kind of made a resurgence near the end. She ended up getting fourth, but I thought at some point she might be able to catch it because there's a little bit of a gap to the first three. Like she was going to catch and maybe go past. Borghini was up there. Molman, Passio, and Mariana Voss, Niwadoma down in 10th place. Hey, some good showing by all them, and good thing, it's pretty cool that they had live TV. But how many wins did you say in a row now? 6?
I think 6. Yeah, it was. So you said Borghini got 5th, or did she get, what was her place?
5th place.
Okay, and then Dygert was 4th.
I'll bring the results right back up. So Uttrup was 3rd, Vollering 3rd. I'm 3rd. 2nd was Uttrup. Sorry. 4th was Dinan. Borghini 5th. 6th was Passio Muman. Michaela Harvey. I don't know who that is. Leon Leipert for Team Sunweb. Mariana Voss in 9th. Niwadoma 10th. And I was trying to see here. We had Grace Brown, Lucy Kennedy, and Mitchell Scott teams down there. They were kind of leading the pace for a while there, but they didn't get the 13th and 14th. Tibco, Lauren Stevens, she was up there near that on that finish in good spot. And then just really, say the last 400 meters just started to fade. She was kind of holding that front group and then just let it go.
Yeah, but I think what I saw, again, I didn't see the whole race. I saw the highlights. So you can probably correct me if I'm wrong, but it looked like Trek was putting in a lot of work to get, I guess both Borghini and Dinan kind of in protected position to get to the climb relatively fresh. And Ruth Winder was on the front a lot, it looked like, kind of keeping pace high and kind of keeping those riders protected.
Yeah.
Good to see that team effort.
Right. It's good to see. And it's what's also interesting, though, and you could see that with this, and we'll talk about it kind of with the Worlds as well. The depth of the field is not quite like what it is with the men's. And with the men's, at some one point on the Worlds, at least, we saw Pogacar going off the front, and the men's team is all there, and they're chasing, and you look at them, and they're kind of like spread across the road, but they're flying. Whereas the women's race, Van der Breggen's up the road, the teams are all spread across the road, but they're not. It's not that same depth of being able to just crush it, where these are more like, but that's why you get someone winning, a woman there winning, time after time after time. But the more you get kind of this good competition, these good races and TV time, I think the better the fields hopefully will be at some point.
Yeah, definitely.
We've got coming up Liège-Bastogne-Liège. That's on the 4th. So that's this weekend. You told me Amstel Gold was canceled, and the Brink Bank Tour, which started yesterday, we saw a stage of it. I guess some of that is canceled. What's your updates on those?
Yeah, so obviously Amstel Gold's canceled. And for Brink Bank, it's stage race that kind of bounces back and forth between Belgium and the Netherlands. And it sounds like the time trial, which was today in the Netherlands, was canceled, and they're trying to reconfigure the route to keep the remainder of the race in Belgium so they could keep it going. They said they had a plan A, they had a plan B, and now they're kind of scrambling to put together a plan C. And the hope is that it'll keep going, but the updates haven't indicated anything new beyond that. So I think it's going to be kind of figured out as they go from here on out.
All right. So keep your hopes up on that. Liège, though, hopefully we'll get that going, and that's you could see then. Now Liège is it's not going to see anybody that's doing the Giro be able to do that. So maybe some of these guys that did the Tour can still kind of work that one in. Guys that are planning for the Vuelta, if they haven't done anything, they can obviously join in that. I just wonder at 2 weeks out from the Tour if that's going to give us anything. Okay, so let's talk about Worlds. And with Worlds, there was some conversation about is Worlds going to be good for a guy that just came out of the Tour or not? I think you had talked. I had talked about that. Lance Armstrong was saying no chance. You're too burned. I had seen an interview with Chris Horner we did with Jeff Linder, and he's like, "Are you kidding? When I came out of the Vuelta, I was flying." And he's like, "I was the best ever going into Worlds." And he's like, "You're going to see someone from Worlds win that had done the Tour." Sepp Kuss had thought the same thing, and in the end, you saw a lot of people from except for the women, but Tour making it happen.
Yeah.
So,
and I think it was an odd one to really predict because I know everybody said, "Oh, it's going to have to be somebody coming out of Worlds," but I don't think that the following Grand Tour is typically stacked that closely to the prior Grand Tour. So you've got guys that are coming off great form coming out of the Tour, but at the same time, you've got guys who are ramping up with great form that are doing the shorter stage races at the same time to prep for the Giro. So you kind of get a perfect storm of people that are collectively in great shape. And I think the final break there did have a non-Tour racer in it. But it was, But at the same time, the guys that were still in the final move were all high caliber racers.
Right. And I think it's also whether they've been a little cooked from the Tour or not. You saw all that cream of the crop come out from kind of what you would expect for those top guys. And they just had so much fitness and suffering in the last month that I think for them, when it was really hurting, I mean, 250 some K, you're able to at least push down a little bit better than the other one. So I've got a little video going here. Let's do highlights and we can talk about it. So we're just going to go straight through from the men and the women on the time trial. Let me know if you got this pretty going here. It should be, there we go. So Chloe Dygert starts out the time trial. She's flying at the cutoff at the first 14K, and the men and the women did the same route. So at one point you can see up here, Roosler, I think she ends up second place. She's already up around 30 seconds or so. Van Dijk had come in with a hot time. Lauren Stevens had done well with the USA. And then boom, I'm watching this live and it's pretty horrific. And looks like, that's not good at all. And some breakdown from her coach, Jim Miller, and others are basically saying that it wasn't mechanical. It was all her being in the drops and basically having an issue with the speed wobble. So I know there was a lot of quick internet speculation of like, oh, she rolled a tubular, she got a flat, her steerer tube broke, everything under the sun. But it was good to kind of hear some information straight from the horse's mouth about what really happened there. And you almost got to wonder about the placement of those pads. If they had extended out to the exit of that turn, if she had just been able to bounce off that, get back on her bike and keep riding, it may have been a different day for her. It was. And her I guess her injury on her leg was pretty severe. So, hey, that's the bummer. And then Vandenbergen ends up getting the win for the time trial. Now the men's, we had just seen where the Ganna had, and you're going to look at the top four here. So Geraint Thomas does well at Tirreno Adriatico, but Ganna came out of Tirreno with a scolding time. So Thomas goes through here at the first check, 25 seconds up, and we're like, hey, he's pretty good. Evidently, he didn't have his Garmin and or power to be able to check anything. Wout, on the other hand, come out of the Tour, Belgian national champion. You expected him to do well. You don't know how much. Like, he had not been able to. Kung came out of the Tour as well. Thomas had not. And at the first time check, Wout's down a little bit, but Ganna has been able to ride his time trial bike, the whole last month where these guys haven't been able to. Who'd you expect out of like these four to really lay it down?
Oh, Ganna, absolutely. Like he absolutely crushed the Italian time trial not that long ago. Like you said, he's had the freedom to kind of train a little more on his TT bike.
What about that high bar there?
It puts him in a good position. I mean, his head's below his shoulders there, and he's got a pretty narrow profile. So, and he's a bigger guy. He's got the world record for the 4K pursuit where he puts out something like 600 watts for 4 minutes. So he's a powerhouse guy. He's probably ridden this course a few times once it got announced. So he definitely had some of the items working in his favor, and it doesn't help that he's just probably putting out a ton of watts. So he was my favorite for this race, and I was kind of hoping for a good performance from Wout, because you kind of root for him after all the work he had done at the tour. But Ganna was definitely the guy to beat.
Yeah, and I just heard there was someone in the car on, I don't know if it was an Italian time trial or did they want to have a Tirreno? They had the Garmin with Ganna, and they accidentally uploaded it to Strava, and his was like 500 watts for the time trial. It was like something ridiculous. So he's obviously, when I saw that, I was like, oh yeah, he's kind of got it. Yeah,
it was. And then Rohan Dennis didn't exactly have the best of days either. I mean, he did well, but he was behind his teammates there. It was a good showing by Ineos overall.
Yes, they did well. Obviously,
they
for the
Thomas, they had Dennis, so they had a good team out there. But
right, and so you end up with Ganna just killing everyone, beating Wout pretty handily in a sense. Geraint Thomas not quite making the podium because Stefan Kung, who had also done the tour, and then Adam's family looked there, job Wout with the hair, and Dennis not doing any speed wobble coming in. He got in the top 5, I want to say, but it was not stellar for what you would expect from him. Yeah. So then obviously Ganna gets the win. They all get their masks on the podium. Wonderful stuff. Tom Dumoulin down there in 10th place. Then we go into the women's road race. The women's road race, let's see, it was 144K, had that amazing loop. The last 2 times up, you got Annemiek van Vleuten leading out with her broken wrist for Van der Bergen, who takes off and just kind of smothers the race at this point, going all the way through the top and not really having much of a problem from there on.
Right. Yeah, Van der Bergen just kind of owned the race, and she had Van Vleuten there to be kind of the follow rider in the event anybody chased her, but she just rode away from everybody. It looked like it was just a casual day for her.
Right. So 1 lap to go. She has a big gap and she ends up just pouring it on. No one really was able to make a concerted effort from the teams behind. Like I said, they're all spread kind of across the road, coming to this little motor park here. Easily done. She had the time trial from, a few days previous, and easily win for her. And then let's see the finish here. I don't know if you're able to see that with Van Vleuten and her broken wrist. She comes in with, I think, I want to say Bergini here. Watch her trying to Gronawagen her into the final barrier as she's losing it right here. She's like, "Oh, I opened the door. I'm gonna." Almost.
Not just as it closing the door. I mean, you're not thinking about it in the heat of the moment that you're closing the door on the broken wrist side of the rider next to you. But yeah, that was. I mean, she got relegated via the race anyway, so she ended up getting 3rd. That was a good, powerful sprint for Van Vleuten there in the end.
It was. So the men here, and I mean, 70K to go. The field is pretty much all intact, and the French do what I didn't expect them to do, which was come in and just really put the hammer down. I mean, this thing was lined out, first of all, going into this climb, but even before that, it was lined out all the way. They come into the climb with 40K. That was like 3 times to go, I guess. And then 2 times in, Pogacar decides that he's going to, I don't know, was this a move for Roglic? I assume it was.
I would assume as well. I mean, from what I read prior to the race, they were working for Roglic. It was a good move. He definitely held a gap for a while, and you make a move like that, and you're riding the form that you had in the tour. You're probably hopeful that you can hold it out and get the win yourself. But it was it was a solid effort.
Yeah. So he ends up going up. Then the next time up the climb, Dumoulin does a good move to catch up to him, and not sure what the deal was with that, other than maybe just try to stretch your legs a little bit. But the field was already big time reduced. Iran goes, because there's 2 kickers for the finish there, or the climbs. Iran gets to go up there. He makes his little move. You got Landa and some of these Spanish guys, and Carapaz was in the mix. But really, when it came down to it, it was really all just these 6 guys. This is where Alaphilippe tacks in the big ring with Roglic, Kwiatkowski, Wout, Hershey, and Fuglsang.
Yeah. And of those guys, the only one that wasn't in the tour was Fuglsang.
Right.
But he is obviously based on this result, in good form. He had a really good Lombardia, so he's a powerhouse guy, and I think he's going to the Vuelta.
Yeah, I believe so as well. And obviously, he could have done the Tour. Very strong guy for the team he rides, Astana. And you just saw Roglic having some trouble here, trying to just hold the wheels and hanging out with Wout. And you tend to think that, and actually look on the back, there was Hershey. It looked like maybe he was having trouble as well. You think that at this point, Alaphilippe has a bit of a break. What we see 14 seconds there with 5K, and Roglic didn't do a ton of work for Wout, and in the end, Alaphilippe gets it. You think Roglic should have done a little bit more, or could he have?
I can kind of take two sides of that. I would say, so I was rooting for Wout. So for me, Roglic, get to the front and pull this back. If you're Roglic and you're racing for the intent of racing, sorry, Wout, today we're not teammates. If you look at Pogacar's attack and the team that Slovenia sent there to set Roglic up to win, if he gets into that group and then kind of burns himself out helping Wout, that's not a great look for the Slovenian team. So, as a fan and somebody who's rooting for Wout, I would have liked to have seen Roglic go up there and put in some bigger efforts to help pull that back. But the same could be said for everybody in that group. It just seems like a lot of those races have that dynamic where somebody gets away, and if there's no actual team presence in the reduced chase group, everybody looks to everybody else, and it actually works to the benefit of that solo rider. I mean, those 5 guys should have had the legs to pull him back if they had just okay, let's get a rotation going and put in some efforts. I mean, Alaphilippe's a strong guy, but those 5 guys on the relatively flat ground should have been able to pull him back.
So the problem with it worked out perfect for Alaphilippe because he has Wout back there in that group. Who in that group, besides that's what we just mentioned with Roglic, is going to work to bring Wout to the finish? Absolutely none of them, right? There's no one wants the shot at him. I mean, right there we just saw he's leading out the group, has done a bunch of work, and still easily beats the field. So they're not going to take that risk. But then it's Worlds.
Right. And at the same time, it's okay, so you're not going to work to pull the win back because you think the other guy that's with you might get the win. So you're guaranteeing yourself the opportunity to not win. I mean, you might be able to, you don't know how Wout's feeling in that instance. And if you work with him to pull him back, he might be exhausted and not have a sprint. The only way you're going to find that out is to do it. But if you just let Alaphilippe go up the road and look to Wout to pull it back, you're pretty much guaranteeing yourself no shot of winning. So it's
John, I'm with you there as well. John Meals just chimes in here. He says Roglic finishing last in his bunch showed he didn't have anything to give. That was actually going to be my point because
or he can't sprint.
Well, you've seen how he's been able to kick with stuff. He's been able to hang with Roglic. They both outkicked Hershey on stage 8, I want to say, when Hershey was up the road and they came to him. He was able to outkick him.
For how many of those miles?
It doesn't matter. I'm saying Roglic is he's no Dan Martin, or I don't know he's no Roman Bardet as a sprinter. I think he's
no Primoz Roglic. That's for sure.
Right. So, Primoz Roglic is no Primoz Roglic.
Right.
Anyway, I think that actually says something there. And you're right. There's all those weird dynamics. And, then it takes me back. You're just to kind of counter what you said there, though. These guys are all top-notch professionals, and you don't race for second place. I remember seeing Chris Horner in the Tour when he rode with Sonia Duval. I'm trying to remember the French guy that he was up there with, and the guy basically wouldn't pull through, and they ended up getting caught right at the line because Horner's like, I'm only racing for first place. What's the point? So if he doesn't do the tactics, do as you want, you get caught. And that's kind of what they were doing here. They were hoping that Wout would take it on himself and do it. And they were pulling through, but Alaphilippe gets the win, and nothing wrong with that. I mean, other than the fact that he was crying again over the line. I did let out some F-bombs in objection to that, but can't always have him crying.
I do like the way he races, though. I mean, he goes out and races. He animates races. He attacks, and he puts in some really solid efforts. I mean, what was it, stage 2, 1, 2, when he got the yellow jersey at the Tour? I mean, he actually goes out there and races, which is good to see. And I think, in spite of the fact that he rides for the powerhouse team of Deceuninck Quickstep, I think he'll be a good guy to have in the jersey because he's definitely a guy that'll be out there racing and making a good show of it. Not that I wouldn't be, but
No, and I agree with that. You know, the fact that he rides Duquoina bothers me. That's whatever it is. How he races is phenomenal, and the fact that he always I mean, look what he was doing here. You know, he lays it down. He puts his French team, pretty good sized team, on the front for him, and then pulls it out. You really got to. I haven't seen a Frenchman fight like that since Lafayette in the Revolutionary War. So
he is a little animated. He does have a little bit of like vocalerism to him when he's starting to like fade from a group or something. Right. He breaks out the facial expressions and the excessive body gestures and whatnot. But I appreciate the way he races.
Yeah, he's got a few things to learn from his teammate Van Savenot or whatever, because that guy, like I said, he was really animated. Any last comments about Worlds? US didn't do so well. I think Sepp finished. I think that's about it. It was as good as we got.
Yeah, we had one finisher. I think Sepp came in 53rd. It was a cool race. Worlds is always fun. I know that they're hoping for a different type of course in Switzerland, but they got what they got, and it was a cool course. The scenery was amazing, like you noted, the panoramic shots that they had on the ridge there that were kind of James Bond-esque, and it was interesting to see the roads because they were consistently just narrow roads, and I know part of it was on a race course. I don't know if those loops through the hills were part of the race course or not, but it was it added some challenges because I know some of the guys can descend like maniacs, and if you're reducing the width of the road in half, that's got to change some of the lines a little bit, but it ended up being a good race.
Zimni says it's better than Viviani crying. I do agree with that. It's not always the best. I was going to play so check this out. This is just a super quick clip of some of the shots that they had there. I mean, this stuff, when I saw them originally, and this was blowing up all over Twitter and everywhere else, you know, Van der Breggen going over, and then Alaphilippe, same thing with that same. I mean, it was amazing. And for them to get this course and then to basically be able to show it like this with the camera. And I was really impressed with the being able to pick the venue at the last minute and pulling it off. So congrats to that.
Yeah.
So next big thing we have is the Giro. It starts on Saturday. I just thought we'd go over some real quick highlights of what's going on here. 3 time trials. You have a 15K time trial to start with. It's got a little uphill. I wonder if they'll do a KOM time like they did in stage 20 of the Tour. Now, they've done that in the Giro before. It starts down in the south, and they're moved their way up. There's another stage 14 has a rolling 34K time trial, and then a flat 15K on the final day. So it ends on a time trial. We've seen that with Dumoulin. I want to say 2017 when he won over Nairo, beat him on the last day time trial. Several long flat days, some big climbs. They start stage 3, Etna, up that volcano. We've had some gnarly stuff we've seen there. So Garrett, this is the odds checkers for the Tour, the Giro. Geraint Thomas is number 1 on the odds. Simon Yates, Fulsang. Fulsang's doing the Giro. Kreuzwick, Nibali, Vlasov, Rafael Majka, Superman Lopez, Wilco Kelderman, and Ivan Sosa. Those are your top 10. Sosa with the Grenadiers. Those are your top 10 odds makers.
Vincenzo didn't look so hot. I thought he would have done better at Worlds. It seems like that would have been a course that was well suited to him, and hopefully he's just building form as he rides into the Giro, and he wasn't peaking for Worlds because he might not do so hot. But Thomas looked. There's that. I mean, Valverde would disagree with that, but from that list there, I mean, Fuglsang is a hard guy to root against. He just seems to.
Chris, appears your internet is bugging out on us. So you're saying Fulsang is a hard guy to root against. I would agree. Hope everyone else still being able to connect. Lopez with Astana, we just saw him come out of the Tour. Who else came out of the Tour? Kreuzwick, he didn't do the Tour. So the only one that did the Tour and then did this is Lopez. So let's see if Chris is going to come back to us someday. Other than that, I mean, hey, you've got a bunch of flat stages as well. And I want to say 2, 6, about 8 of them fairly flat. And then obviously some big climbs up to Etna. They go up to Sestriere on stage 20 and then add in the time trial as well. So anybody post out there, Zimney make a comment if everything's streaming just fine. It appears so on my side. It looks like Chris just ducked out in us, so we'll continue going. So the Giro's coming up, and I'm not sure who we would basically. Simon Yates, I know he's been flying recently. It looks like he's probably going to be going in with the attempt or the intent to be actually a GC rider rather than just a stage hunter like his brother was at the Tour. Kruijswijk, he was supposed to do the Tour. He did third in the Tour last year. Be interesting to see how he does. Nibali is back in on his deal, and we got Chris coming back in here. Chris, glad you came back. What do you want to say? I was just kind of going over those top guys. It looks like to me the only one that did the Tour and then as now doing the Giro is Lopez. You said it's hard to go against Fulsang, and I would agree with that.
He's not in the top 10 here, but Zakarin as well. Although I don't think he finished the Tour. He's in the Giro, but who? No, Ilnur Zakarin.
Oh, I was just looking at those top 10 guys.
Right. But no, Fuglsang usually rides well, but that is a lot of climbing. And I mean, he's not the smallest of guys, so he might be able to handle 1 or 2 or 3 of these days, but all those stages, that might wear on him a little bit and he might struggle. So I think Thomas and Yates are probably good picks there. Who is, any idea who Jumbo-Visma is bringing to support Kruijswijk? I mean, they burnt their entire team to get second to the Tour. So
they did release their team, and I want to say the Plus, Tolhoek were kind of their climbers. I have to go back and look at it again. It's been a little bit, but it wasn't as impressive. You're right. It was, even last year in the Giro, they took, you think, they took Sepp, but Sepp wasn't Sepp last year. They had the Plus. He came out and got sick, so it really wasn't all that impressive. So maybe Kruijswijk, it's a different kind of race too. It's just, it seems like that you don't get to just line up your climbers or your team on the front and drill it out. It's just so much more different. And that's why we like the Giro. So that's what we had.
I thought Tolhoek was a sprinter. Didn't he win a field sprint at the Tour last year?
Antoine Tolhoek? No, you're thinking of someone else. Tolhoek is the little climber guy. Yeah.
Okay.
You're thinking of I don't know, the big guy that ended up winning the sprint. No, Tolhoek is a little guy. He was out here doing Tour of California. He's a good climber as well. How about some just I call them ins and outs? So there's our outs and ins for the Tour or just cycling in general. A bunch of news that came out. Wanty Group, CCC, Giro Rosa, NTT, and Lotto. What do you have on all of those kind of highlights?
Ooh, on all those. We could probably double up the CCC Wanty Group discussion. Right. So CCC is not coming back. They lost their sponsor, couldn't find a sponsor. So Want You Cycling is the parent company of the team that races as Circus Wanty Gobert. So they actually bought the license from Continuum Sports, which is Okowitz's, I guess, company that runs the CCC team. So they're going to be moving themselves up to the World Tour. CCC is basically just going away. It sounds like Wanty's got 18 riders on contract for next year, so they're not going to be absorbing all the riders on CCC that don't have contracts, if they absorb any of them at all. So yeah, it's a bummer you lose one team, but you gain another team that does have a pretty long history in racing. So that the hope is that they'll be around for a while, and they're just not going to be here for a year or two. The bummer for them is, like I said, they've got 18 riders on contract, but they don't have any marquee riders that will have them make a big splash in the World Tour next year. So hopefully they can fill in some of their vacant spots with some strong riders so that they can actually come in and contend and not just be the World Tour team that looks to get in the break and then fall apart.
Right.
Because I know most of the big names from CCC have already been scooped up, whether it's Trentin or Van Avermaet or similar. So I suspect there's going to be some guys fishing for contracts here.
Yeah. Do you know, I think Greg Van Avermaet and a few of the big names from CCC are already gone, right? So
right. Yep. Avermaet's going to FDJ. Trentin, I think, is going to UAE. So those are the two big names. And then they've got some other guys that are bouncing through other teams. A few other guys are going to FDJ to support Van Avermaet.
Brian Zimney, He says, any news on their Arkea Samsic doping scandal? I mean, I could just say what I know, which is Nairo and his brother were investigated at the tour. The police did arrest someone. They said it wasn't really related to the team, but it was related to the team. I don't know. Is that a family member then? I think this is all the kind of stuff we talked about before. I haven't heard anything new and recent about that. They were racing today. So you?
Yeah, I haven't heard anything. Was Quintana racing though, or his brother?
No, he declared he's clean and drug free. So
okay, as long as he declared it, we're good.
Right. NTT's pulled out as a sponsor for 2021. They were, former Quebec, first African team in the World Tour. This is Brian. Goes to Brian's next point. Is he's Ray Lewis might step up to take over NTT. I don't know if that's true or not. If that is, I'm not sure why and what the connection is, but cool. I mean, sure, maybe he's got a connection to Ben King, so that's his deal. This is maybe fake news once again.
But it sounds like they haven't. They've just lost their sponsor. They haven't opted out of being a team yet, so they're not looking to put their license up on the market. Because I know, was it the Manuela Foundation was attempting to buy the Mitchelton Scott license? That kind of fell apart. So it seemed like they would have been the group that would have stepped in and purchased the CCC license, but maybe that came with Ochowicz not being able to stick on in some capacity like he'll be doing with Wanty Gobert. So maybe it's something where they can step in and help out this NTT team. I don't know. They may have to fight Ray Lewis.
Foundation, whatever team. That's just everything seems sketchy there. I mean, everyone seems to have something, and even CCC was getting something with them, and then everyone just kind of like, eesh. So maybe this will be the Ray Lewis cycling team. That'd be what about the Lotto Sudal kind of doing an upheaval of their riders?
I just heard, the quick headline perusal that 10 riders, kind of older support guys, won't be brought back on next year. So I don't know if that means they're looking to reform their team as something different, or if they're just kind of cleaning out some of the older guys that are nearing the end of their careers and wanting to backfill those spots. I'm not sure.
Anybody of note?
Nicholas Mays jumped out as a name for me. He's been a really strong classic support guy going back to the Tom Bonin days. So it's a bummer to see him kind of lose out at this point. And he's probably in his late 30s, so the likelihood of him picking up a new contract is probably slim.
Bummer there. This is a tough year because I think EF and all these some of the teams are just having some trouble. So it's probably a buyer's market as far as teams go. To buy riders a little cheaper this year. I don't know if there's going to be a lot of leverage to be pushing against, except for maybe some of those big time riders. Giro Rosa, they've now lost their World Tour status by the UCI. There's a thing where the women's races that they're showing them, or they have to show the tour or the race on TV. They did not. They kept doing the Giro Rosa. They were doing delayed coverage or some highlights. It's typical some of the Italian stuff where it's just kind of shitty anyway. So now they've downgraded them because of this, and I'm like, hey, that'll fix them. Let's cancel the race instead of the Giro Rosa, by the way, phenomenal race, 9 stages, a lot of climbing, very good to watch. But it's during the tour. You had mentioned here, and you'll talk about it a little bit about just a drag on so much to watch. Ladies, fix this schedule. Move that race somewhere else. I know this is a weird compact year, but every year you have it during the tour. I put it somewhere else. Maybe you'll get live coverage. Maybe they'll fix it next year. Maybe the non-race will be live coverage next year. I don't know.
So it's still going to occur as a race. It's just not World Tour. Now, was that going to change anything with the stage count or the prize purses, which are, I think I sent you and Curt a message about that recently, where it's really nothing at this point anyway. So I don't know if that changes the incentive for teams to even go there. I mean, it's a big expense if it's going to be a 9-stage race, and you got to bring the whole team. You probably got to bring TT bikes. You've got to bring a bigger group. And if the payout is not the purse payout, but like the yield for the team is minimal, I just don't see a lot of teams feeling the drive to go there.
Right. I just want to put this in that Paul Mitchell chimes in with sketchy owners. He says, what about UAE and Bahrain? Yeah, exactly. I mean, you get a sheik, there's good motivate. Some might on the other side of that say, what about Israel Startup Mission? I think they're probably fine. Look, you can look into all these sponsors, some of them are, maybe not the best what you think, but it is weird that you get some sort of Bahrain and UAE sponsoring these cycling teams. And I think from what I've heard, I think those guys out there, they actually really like cycling for some odd reason, but that's what it is.
The Prince of Bahrain, he's a big time triathlon wonk. So he's gone out, he's done Kona and all that stuff on different. You can get into Kona through different means, and he didn't necessarily directly earn his way in. He got in, I think, on a performance-based spot, but I know he's got an interest in endurance sports, so it makes sense that he would have a cycling team, and I think he also sponsors quite a few high-level triathletes as well.
And I heard McLaren was pulling out of Bahrain this next year, so yeah. I don't know. Sponsors, hey, Paul Mitchell, we'll give you one other one. Totally with Israel too. It's like Cold War on skinny tires. Yeah, we're not going to go down the Middle East peace in the Middle East problem right now. That's been done. When they started the Giro a few years ago, maybe in Israel, there's all kinds of should we boycott? Should we do this? Bike racing. It brings us all together and causes war.
I thought Bjarne Riis was going to step in and save NTT or something. Did anything? Obviously, that hasn't panned out.
Well, he might step in.
Did he hook up Ray Lewis? Is that what it is?
Maybe. There's got to be some sort of joke about Ray Lewis's past. But anyway, I know he was stepping in as manager, but I don't know that he's not money bags necessarily, is he? I don't know. Sell his
blood bags.
Friends jersey, huh? On bags?
Blood bags.
No. How about Chris? We're gonna go to the next lovely segment, which is some things that make you go and you're going to tell us some things that make you go What do you got in the thinker?
I didn't really have anything great here. So the one that really stuck out to me is just right now the race density is just insane. We finished the tour last week. We've already done Worlds. We've done Fleche Wallone. We've got Liège-Bastogne in 3 days, as well as the Giro kicking off. And between being a fan of professional cycling, I'm exhausted, and it's only been 3 weeks since this has restarted. It's almost feeling like the equivalent of watching NFL every single day, or like the Super Bowl every single day, where you're just like, I need a break. Well, I can't because the Giro's starting in 3 days. And that's just for me as somebody watching it. The wear and tear on the riders must just be insane this year, because a lot of these guys, if they're not jumping into the Giro, guess what? They're heading straight into the classics. And as soon as that's done, you've got the Vuelta. So it just makes you wonder how long they can kind of keep putting out quality efforts and performing at races before they just completely burn out. So it'll be interesting to see. You've got that, and then you couple that with the Netherlands canceling races. So maybe this densely populated schedule for the next 2 to 3 months is going to thin out a little bit. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. But as scheduled now, it's a lot of racing in a very short amount of time, and it seems like it might be a lot.
Yeah. So my comment there is you've got, there's going to be some thinning out of that as well. But the season is so short that all these guys, I think they're just like going to get like we were saying today, hey, some of them are getting canceled. Get your win in while you can, right? So everyone's riding like it could be the last race. And, while we have the Tour made it and some of these other races, maybe some realization that not everywhere is going to happen. So do it. And then, rest over the winter, you just get it now. Bang this thing out. You've only got a few months left, and what's the problem? And I love it because all these little races is some high quality person is there, and everyone that's there is there to win. It's not just using it for fitness. The bummer is you take a wreck right now and you have an injury, you might miss the whole entire season because you're not going to come back like Mike Woods in his femur. So
exactly, and you do have a lot of guys that are racing on the last couple of months of their contract, so they're going to be gunning really hard for performances, right, and puts them in a position where they're more likely to crash. So like you said, Travis McCabe, I haven't actually seen him get a start this year, and he's on a single year contract with Israel Startup, so he's probably going to want to perform, and he's not actually in races that I've seen. Couple that with the fact that they've brought Chris Froome on, as well as a bunch of other support riders for him, and you feel like he's going to be the odd man out, and he's in his early 30s. Is he going to land somewhere? Right.
He did the UAE tour, and I want to say San Juan because he was doing some really pretty good lead outs for his team there. Maybe even Colombia. So he did get some early season stuff since the Corona. I haven't seen him. Maybe he's a high risk person. Anything else? Any other little tids and bits on that one? You had another.
I did have some garbage about TT bikes. We could say that for another day. It was pretty poorly researched on my part.
Well,
some people don't like them.
it sounds like it's perfect for this show.
Yeah.
So my other thing is Dylan Gronawagen. He looks like he's not going to race for the rest of the season. I mean, it's bad enough. Like I said, you get a wreck and you're trying to come back from that. Now you wreck someone out. You're getting a lot of death threats. You feel horrible about this. The guy almost dies, right? Jakobsen, I think, is sending stuff to someone on the sidelines that helped him. He said, you saved my life. So Dylan is also under UCI. They haven't made any kind of judgment on this. So he's out for the rest of the season, not only from the injuries. I just think mentally he's probably not good to go there. But it made me think that, we saw his move. We saw take him into the barrier. It's we've talked about that at Ed, but there were more, Caleb Ewing at the tour, everyone made a big deal about when he snuck and weaved his way in and won, how great that was. But one clip of the wheel, it's just as bad as this. And he gets a stage win out of it. Sagan gets relegated for what he did. And this poor bastard is probably not going to race for the rest of the season. Mentally, he may never come back. Who knows?
You even saw it in Worlds in the women's sprint for second. I mean,
yes, he did.
I mean, literally, Borghini was putting her into the barricade. And it's just, it was something that I think was a good talking point for a few days. And then it was like, well, shoot, we still got a race. So, and my team still wants me to perform. So I'm going to push the boundary until I get relegated. You saw that with Sagan. And from what I read, it doesn't sound like the UCI has even started to dig into the case for Gronawagen. And Gronawagen's team said, yeah, we're just going to kind of quietly bring him back in 2021 to start his racing. So I think they're resigned to the fact that this is not going to get resolved, and it's better to just kind of let the anger kind of fade away and roll him back in the next season. And like anything in sport, it seems like the best way to recover from that fan hatred is to win. I mean, if he puts up a couple wins, I imagine people will quickly forget and cheer for him again. That's just kind of how it works.
I don't know. Did more people cheer or hate at Chris Froome for winning? He got a lot of urine thrown at him. So it goes both ways. The last thing I had was I saw today on the podium, the girls, the females finish their race and they get up there and, you have I would say, call them losers. You got all these dignitaries up on the podium. So then the people have to be masked, the riders, and you don't get a chance to take a photo, but they all came together to do a bunch photo. The women took their masks off. They're saying, F this, we're going to have a picture. So they got it and the men didn't. They need to do something. It's the one time they're on the podium and they're all masked up. They need to, you're riding together, move those dignitaries off or have them up there, then move them off, let them take a picture on the podium. This has got to stop. I know Paul Mitchell, you may have a problem with what I said after our discussion on Facebook, but I'm just saying they're riding together. Let them have their moment with their faces.
I think that makes sense. And I did that at the tour where, you can probably do the big group podium with masks, and the podiums are large enough where, you can probably have the guys maintain that appropriate distance from each other, snap the photo without masks, throw them back on, hey guys, hold your breath for 5 seconds so we can snap a photo. But it seems like, the masks can probably be figured out for podium shots where they can get these for people who 20, 30 years from now can show their grandkids and say, see, I was a somebody at one point.
Right.
I'm really there. It's not somebody under mask.
And when I took my son up to college, we were in this Walmart, because that's what you do. You go buy stuff there. And this guy came in and he had a mask that he had taken a picture of his face and then put it on a mask. So I'm just like, what the heck? He was not an attractive man, masked or not. So some of those people. Bummer. How about your rider of the week or the month, and then we're done?
Yeah, since you expanded to the month, I guess week would apply as well. But I'm going with Anna van der Breggen. She had a hell of a month. She won the Giro Rosa. She won the World's TT. She won the World's Road Race, and she won her 6th Fleche Wallone. I mean, that's you can't really have a better month than that. You win everything you enter. I mean, that's darn solid. And to cap it off, I don't know what the rest of her season looks like, but she's retiring at the end of the year too. So, I mean, if you're going to go out on top, you're going out with a bang. That's for sure.
She is. I must say that the Giro and the World's TT, she only won those because people wrecked out. Just throwing that out there.
Got to stay on your bike, right?
Yeah, you know what? Very good point. I'm going with Hershey and Alaphilippe, kind of combining. These guys are very similar riders. You saw them competing against each other at the Tour Stage 2. Hershey comes out and wins a race that Alaphilippe has won. Alaphilippe's a lot like Valverde, you know, that little kick at the end, exciting riders. Give it to those guys. I always love when a world champion is someone who is very active and up there in the big races. And so we're going to definitely see that unless he parties too hard and, you know, you don't see Alaphilippe next year. But when you get, you know, the Caleb Ewing and these guys, that Gilbert, I don't know if he had a great time, but in his jersey. Remember Sagan had a little tough time there a few times, but I love to see one of those top-notch guys wearing the rainbow jersey and showing it well. So pretty excited to see that. So give him to him. That's what I've got.
Yeah, no, I think it was good to see. I think, you know, you've got those two guys there, Hershey and Alaphilippe, and I think if Hershey figures out how to time his sprints right, he'll have much better success. I don't know. He did well in stage 2. He did well in the climbing stage against Pogačar and Roglic. So he's got some good kick.
All right, you're getting fact checked here as we do it. There's Chris Wallace coming in here. John Neal says, I thought Anna was retiring at the end of 2021. Zimny Palzon, Vandenbergen is leaving 2021 season without a rainbow jersey in the peloton. Bummer. So we don't know. That would be a bummer, right? She wins. She's going to retire at the end of the season. And if that's the case, then who's going to wear the jersey? I bet she doesn't retire, whether you say so or not, Chris. That's just what I'm going out with.
You don't think that I have any input on it?
I don't know that you have input, or what do you have? Any last words before we head out on episode 204 Between Two Wheels podcast and we start heading into the Giro?
No, it's just a bummer we're running out of daylight here to actually get out and ride our bikes.
Right. So it's 1:30 in the afternoon. By the way, people try to always do these live, let you know when we're doing them, so you can join in. There's still some light out there right now, Chris. So if you want to go head out for a ride, I think you're still within your time slot.
Got work to do. Got to do work.
All right. Well, thanks everybody joining us once again. Check us out. Subscribe. That's all we ask you to do. Just click the little button. Maybe give us a little bit of a star, a review. Say we love Chris, we hate Tyler, and where's Curt? I think that's the mantra.
That was Curt's review.
All right. Thanks everybody. Thanks, Chris.
Yeah.